I love that. Hello, welcome to another episode of Brown Girls Sound Off, BGSO, where we center and amplify the voices of women of color. Welcome to November. Hold on, I'm getting shoulder shimmies. I'm getting a little wrist.
Yes.
Chantel's with the in it, get it? Hi, Chantel, how are you? Hi, Nafisa. I love this. Okay, hey, Edwina, how are you?
Hey, I'm all good.
Good. Nice to see you all. So, if you followed us, which I hope that you did last month, we were talking about the power of yes and no. And if you tuned in last week, it was a very powerful conversation that we had around, saying no to single stories about Black femininity. And it was such a great conversation. We've gotten lots of great feedback, lots of powerful feedback and testimonies around last week's conversation. And we knew, right? We decided to have that conversation, that it would be one that impacts a lot of us and that a lot of us could relate to, and one that a lot of us were ready to jump into. So thank you for all your comments, whether it was in the comment section or, maybe in our private message. Just thank you so much. So now moving on to November, right? And we know a whole holiday is coming up where I know I'm gonna be eating turkey soon. That's a whole different conversation. I'm not going to go there on this episode. But for the month of November, BGSO is going to be talking about social media. We're going to be touching on different topics around social media as it impacts our community and as our community impacts social media. But today, we're going to be talking specifically about raising digital natives. So whether they are your own children that you gave birth to, kids that you are taking care of, I know 3 of us on here are educators. If you work with children in any kind of way or young people in any kind of way, they're digital natives, right? And so this conversation is one that is a hot topic all over the place, especially on social media. Look, I get everything from social media because if any of you have been, tuning in, that social media is impacting our children, our young people in many, many ways, including these crazy TikTok challenges and things like that, right? I see some heads nod like, yes, hearing all about this. Well, this is impacting my school or my child. And so I want to know, I know that that's one of them, right? We have these challenges around TikTok, around, what devious crap you should be doing in school, right? Get your butt suspended or in trouble. But also, what other types of trends are you all seeing? We're all raising digital natives. All of us on here are our mothers and help take care of children. So what trends are you seeing in terms of young people and social media? And what I also want to know is, what feels different from when you grew up? So if you're watching us, I want to know that from you too. Please type in the comments, whether you're in the group or watching on YouTube. Let us know what trends are you seeing on social media. I'm gonna throw this one out to Nafisa, because I know last week you were just telling us about something that happened. I'll let her tell. That's her story if she wishes to tell. But what trends are you seeing on social media, sis?
Well, I definitely want to piggyback on the one that the devious look challenge, honey, because I am a current educator. And I'm running a program for Baltimore County at a high school. And that has been a whole hot mess. They have been ripping off toilets out of the bathroom, ripping off soap dispensers. Just today, a trash can was lit on fire in the bathroom, honey. So it's been just a whole entire hot mess, this devious look challenge. And I just think that it's really important that we are really teaching our kids. Like for me, like I talk to my students about this, and I'm talking to my daughter. I have an 11-year-old daughter who TikToks all the time. I follow her account and monitor it and things like that. But just having a conversation about like everything that comes up as a trend or that you see people doing does not mean that you have to jump on the bandwagon.
Oh my God.
You have to be able to decipher through these things and say, okay, this is crazy. Even when they was doing like that cinnamon challenge, people choking to death, like, honey, Everything is not meant for you
I
to
remember
do.
that. That is,
Remember the cinnamon one?
I do. It was
People were like, I think a couple
ridiculous.
people like actually had to go. Ridiculous. Like some of this stuff is just ridiculous. You have to say, okay, like we have to draw the line. Like this is not okay. Like where I can harm myself, I can harm others. Then you start like you're vandalizing property, which is illegal. You know what I mean? And you're going into dangerous territory and starting to, develop habits that are not going to serve you. These are not good things to start to build upon. This is not a road you want to go down.
No.
What you gonna do next? You know what I mean? So I think it's just really teaching them that, this is not everything you see does not mean that this is what you need to copy or need to do. You need to be able to keep on swiping like, oh, this is crazy, or if you want to laugh at it, ha ha ha. But that doesn't mean that this is what you need to bring into your actual real life.
Thank you. We're going to get into that part a little bit later, but I want to know right now, just what are some of the trends that you're seeing and how does it feel different from when you grew up? Thank you. So we'll talk about the, what we're teaching our kids. We're going to get into that in a minute, but I want to go to Chantel. What are some of the trends that you're seeing and how does it feel different from, maybe the way that you grew up? Because we're not digital natives, because we're talking about raising, digital natives.
Us growing up, we spent all day, every day outside, right? Like we came home from school and we couldn't wait to get back outside. And this generation of young kids, they come home and they can't wait to get in front of the TV and YouTube and TikTok and social media. And I'm like, wow, things have definitely changed. So I have 3 boys and I'll see them watch the football game on social media, TikTok. And I'm like, well, how about we go outside and play the game? How about we do that? Right. And it's crazy because I'm like, no, you can get the football and go outside with it. Like you don't have to watch what they're doing. You can take and go outside and play and have a good time. And so I think the digital divide is really teaching our kids how to emulate or copy, right? I feel like they don't get enough sense of learning to identify who they are outside of what social media is telling them. And I always stress to my kids, like, that's fantasy life, guys. Like the stuff that you see on there, the trends, that's not what people do in their actual real life. So understand the difference between entertainment and real life. And some of those challenges and things come with real life consequences that you will suffer if you do them. So please understand, TikTok will not save you from getting punished.
No, it won't. Thanks for bringing that up. And we know, what are some of the trends that you're seeing and how does it feel different from, from the way you grew up?
For me, I just feel like social media itself is something that, of course, we did not have access to, and now it's getting younger and younger. I mean, at one point, it was just college students and up, and then it became high school students and up, and now we have elementary children with cell phones, and with their cell phones are coming Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything else. So just having that easy access to social media is what I'm seeing that is like shocking to me, because I didn't get my first cell phone until I was like a junior in college.
Girl.
I was a whole old person before I got my first cell phone. And even still I think because of that, my cell phone is really like this device I use for calling people, texting people. So it really is still limited. I will go on Facebook, but it is not my end all be all. Like I have, other way of reaching and getting entertainment. But now that's all that there is using social media for that entertainment purposes. And I remember, and I thought you was going to touch on this, Chantel. One thing I know, like even like my son goes on YouTube to watch gamers play football. And so it's like, it's like this dimension thing happening where instead of you like him actually watching the football game or playing the video game, which we grew up playing video games, so that's cool. But now you're watching other people play video games and you're watching them play through your phone. I'm confused. So that's what's happening, I don't get it, you know, and I guess that's where we differ as far as this whole social media piece.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Obviously, I see all of that, everything that the three of you have already shared. You know, the other part that I see that feels very different. You know, and there's it's a big buzzword around cyberbullying, right? And so, you know, with this medium that is used for communication, you know, comes, you know, communication of all types, right? And so that for me feels very different. So if someone, you know, when we went to school, were bullying somebody, like you might see something like sprawled on the bathroom, you know, door, and that was the way to spread a message, right? So and so did da da da. You know, they would say some nasty things about people, or whatever the case may be, or it was written somewhere or whatever that, you know, a custodial worker could come through and erase, or that a principal could come through and cover up. And so what, you know, one thing that I'm seeing is young folks using social media impulsively to communicate, well, and adults too, but that's a different conversation, but impulsively to communicate their thoughts and feelings, good, bad, or ugly, right? And that is very, very different, because obviously that means that, you know, once they press send or publish, then what's different is that that's there forever. That digital footprint is there forever. And so that's something that is a trend that also worries me when we look at statistics around young people and suicide rates, and even when we look at what's been happening in schools lately. And a lot of, you know, educators and parents alike have been talking about the fact that, you know, for the past 2 school years, students have been home with their devices for the most part, right? And so what does that mean? You're home with your device, so you have more time on social media, more time to beef, you know, digitally, right? Get your quick fingers out and type whatever you want to type. But then that stuff is spilling over into schools. And so it's spilling into neighborhoods. And again, the same is true for not just school-age children, but I find that to be true for young people in general. And that was not the case. If you beef with somebody, how would they know? It might have gone through a grapevine or a telephone tree, but it wasn't out there, you know, for the world to see. Nafisa, I love that you started, you know, this part of the conversation around, you know, what it is that we teach our children specifically, you know, about social media. So thinking about the trends that we're seeing, I know that you talked about, you know, these challenges that are, you know, encouraging our kids to do things that they shouldn't be doing. So, you know, I'm actually going to go to Edwina first, but I wanted to say, I want to give you credit, sis, for bringing this up as part of our conversation. But Edwina, what do you teach your children, whether it's the children you gave birth to or your students? What do you teach them about social media? How do you help them navigate a digital world?
So just to, I guess, share a quick story. Since my oldest goes to BSA, and her teacher told her to create an IG account, and she was very uncomfortable with doing that, which is shocking, right? Because she's like, she don't already have one. No, she does not. Okay. But she was very uncomfortable. And so I took that as an opportunity, like, well, let's talk about like what is bringing this discomfort to you? Like, why don't you want to? So, just to hear from her point of view, what is it about Instagram or whatsoever? And of course, it's because she, is well aware of the information that can flood in, whether it's a bullying situation, whether it's, just things that she shouldn't be seeing or whatsoever. And so I feel like the communication that I have with my children is like an ongoing thing. And so raising them in a way so that they know, like, every information is not good information, and you don't have to expose yourself to something. And at the end of the day, what is it that you want to know? What is it that feels comfortable to you? And if this isn't something that feels comfortable to you, if this is something that isn't going to be uplifting for you, then what's the purpose of it? And so we always talk about, like, that purpose piece. And so I asked her, I said, well, why is your teacher asking you to make this Instagram account? And it was so she has a place to store her artwork. so that, you know, she can invite her friends, family members to come in so they can see like what she's doing in class. And I was like, so that right there. And then I had to teach her like, well, for Instagram, it doesn't have to be open to the public. You have, you know, the opportunity to make your page private, and the only people that can have access to it is those that you invite in. And so just being aware of that. So we can teach, and I am, you know, going through that process now of teaching my children that social media can be used as a positive tool. But once again, what's the purpose of you being on here? And it can also, if you're here just because you want to know what everybody else is doing, because you want to be nosy, you want to gossip, you want to bully, then we're not going that route. And me being the example for my children, they don't see me doing things like that. So they don't do things like that. Like, that's just not us. And I think, you know, us standing in as models, as, you know, what our children need to see, I think that also plays a part in how they navigate their ways in this digital world.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. I think that's so powerful. Because like what I'm hearing and what you shared was you're teaching your children how to set boundaries, right? And that's an umbrella thing, right? That's a very useful skill that we all need to learn. And this is how you do that on social media, right? And so I love that. Nafisa, I want to go back to you. So what are some of the ways, you know, what are some of the things that you teach your children, whether it's your students or even your beautiful daughter, Zuri? What are some of the things that you're teaching them about social media? How do you help them navigate this digital world?
Well, I think I said a lot of it earlier, but one of the things I was thinking when Edwina was talking, it's funny you said that, it's just boundaries, it's having boundaries and just parameters around it. Like I know for my daughter, like she only has TikTok, which I monitor all the time. She's not allowed to have Instagram or Facebook, any of those things yet. But also, like she said, setting those settings where it's private. Like she said, like Edwina said, like you get to choose who comes in. Like I'm telling her, if it's somebody you don't know, it's not one of your friends, it's not like an auntie or you know, somebody that, you know, I know very well, you're not accepting those people. So setting the boundaries that way. Also, like she said, everything is, and this, I tell Zuri this as well as my students, everything is not for social media. You know, I've had to tell some of my male students who want to be on her with money. I'm like,
making it rain, huh?
You know, you inviting people in to rob you. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a good look. You know, I've had to pull a couple of my male students up on that. You know, like everything is not for social media. Like you want to be aware of that. Like have fun. Like she said, is it for entertainment? Are you promoting like a business that you want to do? You know, those types of things. So you have to be careful about what you're putting out there because everybody doesn't mean you well. Everybody doesn't need to know where you're at right now. So you don't got to check in everywhere you go. You know what I mean? Like you just have to be mindful of those types of things. Because like Tony said, it's open to the world, you know, out there. So just being careful about that. And like, the bullying part, I think it takes it to a whole nother level now on social media. So making sure that that's not the route we're going, like Edwina said. Like it's supposed to be a fun thing, something where you're enjoying things and feeling good and having fun doing the dances or whatever on TikTok, but not bringing certain things into your space or your energy. And being mindful of what you're seeing. If it's something that's crazy or that doesn't make you feel good, then keep swiping. You know, you don't want that to be kind of like in your algorithm. So just having those boundaries and setting those parameters and just knowing like everything is not for social media. Some things need to be private for fun, for business, things like that. You know, networking and just socializing with your friends in a fun and positive way.
Yes to all of that. And by the way, if you're watching right now and you have not pulled a young person up next to you, please invite them to to this episode because my sisters are dropping some gems on this episode. So please invite them. If they weren't here for the first couple of minutes, then rewind it and then, you know, make sure they're sitting here for the entire episode. Chantal, what about you? What are some things that you are teaching your children about social media? How are you helping them navigate this digital world?
Well, I think one of the things I'm teaching them is everything that's posted isn't necessarily true. So teaching them to ask for more than one opinion, to think. And I'm challenging, especially my oldest, to find out information for yourself. Don't just accept what you hear or see on social media, right? Because people can edit, cut, and post whatever it is that they want. And just like all of you all said, just because it's posted doesn't mean you have to partake, right? Like understanding, putting boundaries around yourself and identifying who you are as a young man and how you want to present yourself on social media, right? And how do you want people to view you or see you on social media, right? My son has a TikTok account. He has over 20,000 followers, right?
Yes.
But he
Is
really
this a drummer?
yes. So my son is a drummer.
Okay.
So he's promoting like his drum videos and things like that. And he's a teenager. And so I get it. You want that connection to other people. You like those likes, you know, but I'm really like, as long as you like yourself and you're promoting something that's positive, I'm really okay with that. You know, but we've been having this conversation probably since for the last maybe 2 years, and him understanding that everyone is not your friend.
Yeah.
You know, really be careful, screen people, delete people who are negative. You know, you don't have to participate in the bullying. You don't have to tag and click and forward. You know, don't be a part of that negativity. You know, use your social media for something positive.
Oh, I love that. I love that, and I would love for us to talk about that in a bit. One thing that I want to think about that I want to talk about really quickly is something that I talk about with my kids all the time. I am a full-time business owner. And so I remember doing some work with an organization around social media, right? And how to use social media for good, speaking of what Chantel is saying. And, one thing that I learned, this was a couple of years ago, but one thing that I learned was the fact that like on social media, well, and anywhere in life, but especially on social media, you are your brand. So whether you look at yourself as a business owner or not, you are building a brand like around your name on social media, one that you might not have even asked for, right? And so part of, and I'm going kind of deep into some marketing stuff, but part of a brand is brand recognition, right? And so when you think of some big name companies, you see their logo and you automatically assign values, and you can automatically rattle off what they care about and what they stand for. Well, the same is true for social media. So I know that we're talking about raising digital natives. Hopefully some of the adults watching also find some of these gems helpful, but the same is true for social media. When we're constantly putting out images, we're constantly putting out words, young people and not so young people. We're constantly putting, reposting, retweeting and liking and all that. Whether we like it or not, we're building a brand around our name. Right. And so I talk to my kids about that in a way they understand, in terms of like, well, what is it that you should be engaging in? Does it align with how it is that you feel? Just liking someone is also part of your brand recognition, right? So when folks are saying, oh yeah, she likes this thing that is homophobic, she likes this thing that is Islamophobic, she likes this thing that is, transphobic or racist or sexist or whatever the case may be, then that's how you're starting to build your brand around those ideas. And so, that's one thing that, that I talk with my kids about, and I teach them, you don't comment on everything. You don't comment on everything, because see, what's different, well, not so different now, but what's different from years ago is now employers and even schools are starting to check social media accounts. So for those of you who have, teenagers or rise, folks, young kids who will become teenagers and applying to colleges, they're starting to look at that type of stuff to determine whether you will, adequately represent their brand, whether they, whether you are a such and such student, whether you operate in the such and such way, right? And so I think that it's so important that we talk with our young people around that, because we're going to start to see more and more employers and schools and other gatekeepers start to use, social media for or against us. So as we start to round out this conversation, I just want to know, from all of you, what are your hopes or fears for young people around social media? You can, either one, whether your hopes and or your fears. What do you think about it? What do you hope for young people? And maybe what do you fear in terms of social media?
I think one of my fears, oh, sorry.
Are you
I think
good?
one of my fears is young people not understanding boundaries, especially when it comes to how they navigate their own emotional space, their mental
Mm,
space, and conflict resolution, and being quick to post certain things on social media that might not necessarily show them or highlight them in the most positive light. Being sneaky, keeping information away from their parents or people they don't want to see certain things, that is a fear, because when you talked about your brand as your image, as my son's, as his mom, I would hate for someone to come up to me and say, oh, well, your son posts this, this, and this. And I'm like, I had no idea. He has 5 different pages, and so really staying on top of that, continuing to have these conversations about identifying what the proper uses of social media is, especially for our young people, and protecting them, right?
mm.
Really standing in and protecting them and showing them how to utilize social media.
Thank you, sis. Edwina, what are some of your hopes or fears?
Yeah, and I guess for me, a fear, and I feel like it's already sort of happening, is just kids getting lost online
Mm,
and forgetting how to interact with people outside in real life.
mm,
Because it just seems like they're so consumed with the social media platform that it's like, how do you how do you communicate
mm,
effectively in person? Like, how do you interact? How do you, and this is going into like adulthood or dating and things like that. And if you're picking it up now in elementary school and everything is like this digital world, that's who they become. And it's like we have to continue to pull them out of it so that they can still be real children and
hashtag
have real
compound.
relationships. Yeah. Hashtag compound.
Okay.
Yeah, so that they can still learn how to interact in the real world. So that's my fear. And I know like it does still take the parents, the adult, to continue to just keep pulling them out of that and having those real life experiences with them so that they know that the world is still very much alive and real.
Very much 3D, right?
That part.
Doesn't just exist on our screens. Thank you, sis. Yeah. Wow. Nafisa, what about you? What are some of your hopes or dreams? I'm sorry, hopes or fears?
I wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Edwina said. I think one of my big fears is that the kids just start to lose like their creativity,
Mm,
because I know like when we were younger, we had to make up a lot of stuff to do because we weren't as entertained with all these gadgets and social platforms. So I think it's just important, as parents, that we kind of help them navigate through that and monitoring the screen time and saying, okay, like turn it off. Why don't you go read a book, go draw, go outside, go ride your bike, do something else. Like you got to pull away from that and tap into other things. So I just think that's just important. I just don't want kids to lose their creativity. So I think we just have to make sure that my hope is that we continue to try to navigate that as parents and guardians and make sure that our kids are having less screen time where they can kind of explore other things, whether they're drawing and tap into other talents that they can cultivate that maybe they might not even be aware of because they're so consumed with this digital reality.
I mean, first of all, you all have really shared some great things, and kind of piggybacking off what Nafisa just shared and what Chantel shared a few moments ago around her son. One thing that I hope is that our young people learn to use social media in ways that actually showcase or amplify or even enhance their talents, right? So if you like to draw, like my daughter, I was homeschooling her last school year, so I know that she loves to draw. So I had her, since she is a digital native, teach herself how to use a platform called, Procreate, a program or whatever, to actually create drawings, and then she was sharing them, right? So my hope is that, because I don't think that social media is going, I know it's not going anywhere. In fact, it's going to continue to evolve. And I love what Edwina said around, it's our job then as parents, as the adults in the world, to actually teach our children how to still interact with people. And since it's not going anywhere, how do we all, I'm also just focusing on ways to help them navigate their digital world as well. So like the yes, and here's how we operate, in the real world. And I hope that we continue to teach our young people how to operate in the digital world. So as we wrap up this conversation, speaking of which, how do we, as Black and Brown caretakers, how do we build up the young people in our lives and in our community? Because I think that, they're also dealing with information overload, something that was, kind of touched upon earlier. They're getting a lot of things thrown at them about, who they should be, how they should show up, what they should do or shouldn't do. So there's a lot of, misconceptions that are floating around. And our children have access to those misconceptions all the time. How do we just, really quickly, how do we continue to build up our children and the young people in our lives? And if I want to go to you first, please. What's one way we can build them up?
I think just as positive, just affirmations. I know I leave my daughter, I leave her like little notes like every morning just for her, because I leave before her for her to kind of read and just start her way in a positive way. So I think just continue to just build up, build that capacity in them.
I like that. That's so sweet. Can you be my mama? Mommy. I love it. Dang, be my sis and my mama. Chantel, how about you?
I say like self-acceptance, like understanding who they are unique individuals, not being copycats, learning to stand firm in who they are and loving who they are, even as young Black boys, that it's okay to be different. You don't have to be like everybody else.
I love that. That positive self-identity absolutely starts in the home. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wena, how about you?
And I'm just a supporter overall. And I do encourage my children, like whatever it is that they want to do. If you truly want to do it, I'm the person who, I will support you. I will find resources. If you, like books, so I'll put you in a class or something like that. And so I think just continuing to be that person to support whatever it is that they would like to build, they would like to build up to. If it's something that's not going to be harmful to them, then I'm down for it.
I love it. Yeah, you know what? My sisters are some great mamas. Look at, listen, okay, we're a whole vibe. And the only thing I would just add is, to do what it is we're doing now, right? I think one way to build up the young people in our lives is to not just leave the doors open for communication, but to pull them in, right? We've talked about this in other episodes, like what does it mean to truly have an open door policy? Your door can be open, but are you inviting? Are you welcoming, right? Are you pulling people in? And I think the more that we pull other parents in, other caretakers, other educators, coaches, therapists, young people, our children, our nieces, the more we pull each other in and continue to stay in conversation, I think that, we can support each other that way, right? Because what I would hate is for, young people to be crying out for help on social media. I feel like I don't know how to navigate this, right? And so let's normalize actually staying in conversation and inviting our young people in to talking about what's going on in their digital world. What's happening? What's that comment about? So I just wanted to thank you all for this amazing conversation. I know that when we had our month last season, when we talked all about parenting was another hot topic. This one isn't specifically about parenting, but it did, touch on some aspects of what it means, to be someone who takes care of young people. So as always, thank you for tuning in to BGSO, the podcast. Please don't forget to comment below. Let us know if anything that we've shared resonated with you. Let us know if there are some other tips that you'd like to share as well. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. And if you have not already, please join the group on Facebook. If you identify as a woman of color, we invite you all in. So our door's not just open, we're pulling you in, sis. Come on and join us. Have a wonderful rest of your day and rest of your week. All right, everyone. Good night.